It's the screening shrub guy. Come and get your screening shrubs. Come on, boys and girls. Screening shrub delivery guy. Screening shrub delivery guy coming in. Come and get your screening shrubs. All shapes and sizes. So after that treacherous drive, now it's time to talk about screening plants. Got quite a few here to go through with you and tell you the virtues of these plants, how and why you might use them. But first, let's talk about what we mean by screening. As a designer, when I think of screening, it's about having something between me and something I don't want to look at or I don't want to be seen by somebody else. So let's get some terms straight here. As a designer, I think in terms of screening plants that are informal versus hedges. A hedge is something that needs to be clipped and pruned, and we're usually seeing them as just a big block, just a wall somewhere between you and what you don't want to look at. Those don't require a lot of space if you're willing to prune them and if the plant is willing to be pruned. Another thing to consider, and this is going to require you to do some research or have a reliable nursery employee help guide you, is the appropriateness of your plant for the type of soil you have. Some places in the Santa Barbara area have wonderful soil. It drains beautifully. Other people are stuck with adobe and rocks and things like that. Not every plant is going to be happy, if I might anthropomorphize, in any type of soil. There's some that can grow anywhere. I've grown a few in belly button lint. Kidding, disclaimer, no belly button lint. Another thing is the amount of sun or shade that a plant will take. In a brand new garden, everything's sunny, unless you're right against the north backside of the house. But over time, the trees that you plant are going to cast shade, and some plants that thrived in full sun might start looking a little bit weaker. The last thing we want with a screening plant is for it to start giving up and not doing its job as the garden matures. So if you want privacy between you and the neighbor, and you put in a plant that requires full sun all the time and it starts getting shady, guess what? You're going to have to be very good friends with your neighbor. So think about soil, think about how much water the plant's going to take, think about how much sun and shade and just general intensive care a plant might need. Everything I'm going to share with you today are pretty darn tough plants or they wouldn't be on my list. This is a royal trumpet vine, a plant called Distictis rivers. And it is a vine. I know I've been talking about shrubs and bushy plants, but surprise, surprise, if you've got a wall or a fence, especially like a chain link fence, which is not that pretty to begin with, and you not only want to hide the fence, but also create some density, then as long as the fence is high enough to be above eye level, or the plant is capable of growing unsupported for some of its growth, then you can go with vines. Trumpet vine grows in sun or even a decent amount of shade, but you'll get more flowers if it's sunny. It takes low water once it's been established. That might be a couple of years, but if you have it on a drip irrigation system, and a quick tip, don't just put the drip emitter right over the container when it's first planted. Allow for, over the next few years, to move the drippers away so that the root system expands. And stylistically, you can see this isn't going to be in your cactus and succulent style garden generally. This is in a more traditional type of garden with pastel colors. It'll bloom starting in about spring and go through summer. So I put some new plants here on the table, and I want to talk about one design idea before I get in too deep on the specific plants. Prepare to be underwhelmed when it comes to screening plants. They're generally in the background, and from a design point of view, they don't need to be the center of attention. An example I think of is like a Broadway musical, something like Hamilton, or going back years to something like Guys and Dolls. There might be 30 people on the stage, and then there's your lead actors who are the center of attention. They've got the spotlight on them. Same sort of thing for background plants. I would much rather choose a plant that does its job, has staying power, and doesn't require a lot from me, even if it's not particularly spectacular, and then let this be the backdrop for the other guys that are putting on the show in front. So you're looking at a lot of just plain green plants. Some of them have flowers, but that's not why I choose these plants as background plants. It's because they're gonna take a licking and keep on kicking. First one up, this is Ligustrum japonicum, and there's a few offshoots of this. There's another one, makes my brain hurt, Ligustrum japonicum texanum, and how we got Texas and Japan together, I don't know. But you'll notice this is a plant whose natural character is to grow upright and vertical. That's a good thing for screening plants because we know they're not going to be creeping out into the garden and requiring a lot more work. It's also dense. It'll keep its foliage throughout, sun or shade, and super low water once it's established. It does have the bonus of clusters of small white flowers in the springtime and early summer. They are fragrant or they are stinky. It depends who you are. Some people love them. I had them outside my bedroom window when I was a kid. I was fine with them. Some people are a little turned off for them. So if you are going to shop for Ligustrum, try to find it when it's in flower, or just put it somewhere where it's not going to be in your face if you think it might be a problem. So this is Ligustrum, or Privet. This is another one of my favorites. Again, very vertical growth. You can see it almost does it all by itself. This is a plant called Myrica californica, or Pacific wax myrtle. Guess what? It's from California, so this is a native plant. Also does great along the seashore if you're close to the water. Some plants might get a little mildewy if they're too far into the fog belt. This one does great, and by comparison, it's a much lighter green foliage, finer texture, small leaves. Very nice plant and makes a great backdrop for whatever's around it. And again, another green plant, but a green plant with some interesting characteristics to it. The common name is Kohuhu, and I think it's something South Pacific language. I couldn't tell you which one. It's a form of Pittosporum. We have a lot of different Pittosporum or Pittosporum growing in our area. They do great. This is a form of Pittosporum eugenloldes, and one of the cool things on this is a little bit brighter foliage color on the new growth, but it also has these almost jet black stems, so puts on a little bit of a show. Stay right there. Hi, I'm back. What you been doing? This is another Pittosporum tenuifolium. This one's called Marjorie Channon. I've got these in my front yard, and every time I come home, I'm singing "Take My Breath Away." It's these beautiful, creamy, milky variegation along the edges, and it's even more of a stark contrast because you've got the dark stems with the light outside. It'll grow in full sun. I think it looks best when it gets full sun in the morning and a little bit of protection in the afternoon. It'll also use less water if you use it that way. So these two Pittosporum are great. Again, vertical type of growth. I'll be right back. This is another one of my favorites. It takes clipping really well as long as you do it right, and it doesn't always come with a half-inch stake in it. This is just how we grow them at the nursery. It's called African fern pine. It is from Africa. It's not related to ferns. It's not related to pines. It just kind of gets that name. Goes by two different botanical names, Afrocarpus or Podocarpus. You'll most commonly find it under Podocarpus. What I like about it, of course, the delicate texture, light green color, again, sun or shade. However, you want to stay ahead of this plant. There's a specimen of this at Alameda Park that's probably 100 feet tall and 80 feet across. It's on the west side near Mitchell-Terrena Street if you want to go say hello to it. But treated as a shrub and kept to size in your garden, it'll do fine pretty much forever. Now, I said that a lot of these shrubby plants aren't necessarily spectacular, but here's a few that are the exception. As an informal screen, this is not a plant that's going to like a lot of shearing, but this is Leucadendron Safari Sunset, called Safari Coneflower. It's a sort of a flower cone type structure in the center, but what's really special about it are these reddish burgundy colored tips and burgundy colored stems. It takes a little bit of pruning to keep it denser, can become almost a small tree, but it makes a very nice screen especially in Mediterranean style gardens. This is from South Africa and blends really nicely with some succulents and a lot of our other Mediterranean plants. This is always high on my list. This is another African plant. This is called African boxwood, and it's very much like boxwood but unrelated. It's Myrsine africana. And what I really love about this is, again, the stems, aside from the nice crispy leaves and the vertical growth, the stems are a burgundy color. You put this in the garden with some other plants around it that have some trace of burgundy or red, and it's a very harmonious plant to have in the garden. Love using this guy. Not one of the taller ones, so if all you're looking for is a shrub that's going to get above eye level, this is a really good candidate. And staying in those sultry type of colors, you'll see this around in a lot of situations. This is purple hopseed bush, Dodonaea viscosa purpurea, or is it Purpurea? There's something down here right now that'll give you the right name for it. That's what we do. Great plant, grows, it can grow as much as 12 or 15 feet tall, but again, takes to pruning very well. Don't shear it, leave this as an informal plant. Too much shearing, it'll start dying off on the inside. Very, very low water. One thing to look out for in an over-irrigated garden, which I hope you don't have, this might start to reseed. If it does, you just pull the seedlings out when they're little babies. They're so easy to spot because of this color. So Dodonaea, fabulous plant, and a plant that just keeps on giving. This is pineapple guava. Recently changed its name from Feijoa to Acca. It's Acca sellowiana or Feijoa sellowiana. Great personality. I said that some of these screening plants are kind of boring and dark green. This is one of the exceptions. It's a kind of a gray green or sage green on the top and these cool kind of a blue-gray on the underside. The bonus, of course, it gets flowers that have red stamens like a bottle brush, and then it produces what I think are really delicious fruits, which are pineapple guava. You'll get less fruit if you're growing it as a shrub because you're pruning it more, but if you let it turn loose and turn it into a tree, great plant, very delicious. And one more super goofy plant, recently introduced to me. This is a succulent. It's called, this one is called giant elephant food. So if you're looking for ways to attract elephants to your garden, because we're all interested in, helping with habitat, and you just want a pet around the house, this is it. I'm going to guess it's called elephant food because it's so succulent and filled with water like jade plants and things like that, that the elephants just love munching on it. It's like some of the other plants. It's got these kind of maroon colored stems, and its botanical name is Portulacaria afra macrophylla, macro meaning big, phylla meaning leaf. And this can get 8-10 feet tall, and if you want to reproduce it, you just snap it off like a lot of succulents, stick it in a pot for a little while, roots, off it goes into the garden. One other screening plant. If you intend to just lie on your belly in the garden all the time and never pick your head up any higher than this is a great plant for screening. I am pushing your foot. Those are some of my top picks for plants for screening. Remember, we're choosing plants primarily. First consideration is, will it be happy in this location? We're certainly concerned with water, sunlight, soil, whether they attract pests. None of these are known pest attractors, whether they help support habitat. So we're looking for plants that fit in our sustainability model. We're looking for plants that'll be more upright growing and not require a lot of pruning if we don't want to do that. And we're looking for plants that complement the style of our garden. I hope you got something from this. Come on back.